What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 28 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. Brought to you, as always, of course, by RUDIS. And Matt, you've had a 2-week hiatus. Do you want to tell us about China, or you just want to get into this wrestling?
I think there's plenty to get into. I've been chomping at the bit. You know, it's being out of the country, you're almost detached from everything that's going on. So I tried to, as best as I could, to follow everything while I was gone. But it's nothing like being home and seeing the real thing. So, let's jump into it.
Yeah, man, Asia's tough because you're on the opposite side of the world, and so you barely cross over time zones with anyone in America where they're wakeful periods. And so, yeah, it's always tough to catch people, especially to talk about wrestling, because there can't be that many people you want to talk to about wrestling about. So, man, I had a whole list of topics. I don't even know where. My first topic on the list was Spencer versus Seabass, and I wrote this yesterday morning, Matt. And so,
well, I think there's a whole another take there now, right? Of what we thought what we were probably going to talk about and what we can talk about now.
Yeah, I mean, I had a private lesson going on, and I even told my 4 kids, I said, guys, listen, I'm going to coach you, but I'm going to take a break at 2 o'clock, and I'm going to watch this match. And they said, well, can we take a break too? I said, no, you're going to keep working, but I'm going to watch Spencer Lee versus Sebastian Rivera. And then, like, right at 1:30, it says Spencer Lee did not weigh in. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I think, Matt, I think you and I almost wanted to go back and find the episode, but I'm pretty sure you and I discussed the possibility of him not wrestling at this dual meet, which was less than a month after the Midlands meeting.
I think we did. I think I need to go back. But I know we mentioned it. I'm not sure what position we took on it, but yeah, I'm interested to hear your take on the whole thing, on the non-weigh-in.
I think it's bad. I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit. And man, it's like, okay, listen, Matt, if you're gonna fake it, at least not wrestle Friday, right? He wrestled Friday against Illinois, so I mean, at least like skip both of those matches. He went out and pinned Travis Piotrowski, who's not a bad wrestler, on Friday night, and then just doesn't show up Saturday. So I don't know that there's any excuse for this. And I always thought it was more honorable to go out there and take your butt kick and then just not show up at all. That was my mindset on the topic.
So yeah, so you are more of a traditionalist. Like, hey, if you're good to go, you should go out there and wrestle.
Listen, I didn't miss a match, Matt. I didn't miss a match in my college career. There was one match where Coach Smith let the backup wrestle. But my senior night, Matt, I was so sick. And the whole team got like this. It was like the plague or something. We only wrestled 5 wrestlers. Matt, we were ranked number 1 in the country when we wrestled 5 wrestlers against Chattanooga. We had 40 guys on the team. It was like a plague. And I couldn't see straight. And Coach Smith said, you're not wrestling. I said, Coach Smith, this is my senior night. I only get one of these. Hell or high water, I'm going on a damn mat. And I got out there, and I saw 3 Lloyd Rogers. I didn't know which one to wrestle. I was so sick. I just grabbed. Once I got a hold of him, then I could kind of feel my way out. But dude, I wasn't even seeing straight. I remember after the match, I laid in the tunnel. I couldn't get up for like an hour. I thought I was gonna die.
So when you were seeing 3 guys, did you just shoot at the middle one and hope?
I walked in and tried to grab something. And once we got a hold of each other, then I was kind of okay, you know. But yeah, man, I'm like, I don't like missing matches at all. I didn't miss one high school. I didn't miss one high school practice or match. I only missed one because Coach Smith wanted to wrestle someone else in college. So yeah, I don't get that at all, man. I mean, my feeling was, and it was your opportunity to compete, man. I worked my ass off all year round, and I only get to compete 40 times a year, maybe. Like, that's an honor. That's something that we should take for, have gratitude for. Not be fearful or be worried about what's going to happen. I only get to perform 40 times a year, and I work 365 days a year for that. Like, I'm taking my opportunities when they come, no matter what.
So when it came down to it, like if Coach Smith would have said, "Hey Ben, I'm gonna hold you this match," would you have said no? I'm wrestling.
I fought him over it many times. Like my freshman year, I was so stubborn. And there's, Coach Smith and I got along. But my freshman, he tried to wrestle me in a freshman sophomore division or something. And he's like, "Oh, I want you to win." I said, "No, I'm going to wrestle the best guys. I'm not going. Listen, you're not putting me in the freshman sophomore division. That's just not going to happen." And I freaking made a huge stink about it, And then I got to wrestle the real open. I had one really good win. I beat Robbie Lawler, but then I think I ended up losing 2, and I ended, taking like a 4th or 5th place or something like that to guys who weren't that great. And that was kind of, like I said, we've talked about it before. That was kind of the story of my freshman year. I had some good wins, but I had some bad losses too.
So yeah, I guess fundamentally what the problem is from your standpoint, one, just from a sport perspective, we pride ourselves on being tough, win or lose, come hell or high water. If, like, to your point, if you're sick, if you're healthy, if you're good enough to go out there, you should go out there and wrestle. And I think, by and large, that's what differentiates wrestling, or we feel that's what differentiates wrestling from everybody. But also, I think from a public and a consumer standpoint, this is one of the matches on the calendar that everybody circled. As soon as the Midlands went down, you circled.
This was huge.
We talked about it. They're like, hey, when's this doing? That being said, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
And say that while I may not necessarily agree, I understand maybe what Brands was doing in this decision-making process. My thought is Big Tens is what's going to determine the number 1 seed at the NCAA tournament, right? And so going into this match, they're probably thinking, all right, what do we really have to gain here? Okay, if we win against Rivera, we're talking about Iowa here. If Lee beats Rivera, they split 1-1 during the regular season, and it's still the number 1 seed at the Big Ten. The number 1 seed for the NCAA tournament is still going to be determined at the Big Ten tournament, right? So they're like, well, why haven't wrestled this dual meet right now when the biggest match is going to be at Big Tens and is going to determine, as opposed to, and on the flip side of that, in addition to that, if Lee did go out against Rivera and beat him, and then or lose to Rivera again, he's 0-2 in the regular season. Then let's say the scenario plays out, he beats him at the Big Ten. Now there's a little bit of discussion there.
Are these guys Are Rivera or Spencer Lee really worried about the 3 or 4 or the 5? I mean, I don't think they. I don't know. It's Ronnie Bresser, Nick Piccinini, Jack Mueller, Sean Russell. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't feel like they're too. I don't think that one of them's worried about. It's not one of those situations where the 3 is really, really tough and the 4 is not tough. I don't think it's one of those situations. I think Bresser, Piccinini, those are about equals. There's not one of those guys that I'm saying I got to avoid that guy.
Yeah. And I think at this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, it as long as they both make the finals of the Big Ten tournament, I still think Lee and Rivera won 1 and 2 at the NCAA tournament.
So from a straight honorable perspective, you go out and compete if you're healthy enough to do so. I think that's the thing. But then, Matt, I mean, the other thing I would say here for Spencer is like, dude, Rivera had you figured out at Midlands. He had your timing. He kind of picked you apart. You need to go out there and figure out what's going on. Like, you have to get another feel for that. I mean, the only way that doesn't work is if he's conceding and saying, you know what, the only way I'm going to win is if I get the first takedown, I get on top, I get my cross wrist series. Other than that, if that's what you're banking on and that's your only hope, then okay, whatever. But I mean, he should be saying, damn, he had my timing down. He was nailing me with shots. I got to get out there and I got to feel what he was doing. And I know.
I mean, for me, I would be chomping at the bit. Every time I lost to a guy, I'd be like, I want that guy tomorrow. I want him next week. Yeah. When's the next possible guy? When's the next possible time I can actually see this guy? But if I'm Spencer Lee right now, and maybe this may be reading into things, if my coach tells me he's sitting me, what does that say to your athlete?
How sure are we that it wasn't Spencer that made the decision?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, we haven't discussed that.
We don't know that.
Yeah. I mean, right now we're thinking Brands.
Tom Brands would never say that in an interview, right? Because it would set a bunch of horrible precedents that you're letting an athlete. It'd be 2 things: you're letting an athlete make decisions, and then or you're throwing an athlete under the bus, right? So you just can't say that. So Matt, when I told you I've referenced before I wrote that book and we interviewed all the past Division I NCAA champions. One of my favorite things that was said in all of the surveys was Mark Chiarella, senior, of course. And I'm not going to get the quote 100% right, but I'm going to get you the gist of it. He said something like, when I was envisioning wrestling my future opponents, I always wanted to wrestle them as much as possible because I thought, if it's someone in the practice room that I wrestle every single, am I going to let them beat me every single day? And the answer to that is no. I'm going to figure out how they're beating me. I'm going to study it, and I'm going to figure out how to beat them. And that kind of stuck with me. And it's like, yeah, why can't you do that with your opponents? And he was saying, well, I'll do that with my practice partners in the practice room. Why can't I do that with my opponents also? And I thought that was just such a good and healthy way to think about it. And like I'm saying, man, Rivera had Spencer Lee figured out at Midlands. And so I feel like it's benefit to Spencer to get out there and try to, hey man, how did he take me down 3 times? You can study the tape all you want, but until you feel some things with the pressure and the power, it's just not the same.
And really, when you're talking about 2 high-level guys, it's not like he's got to learn a new move. It's a series of small adjustments, right? And the only way you can make those small adjustments, you can talk about them and you can work on the technique in the room, but until you actually go out there and feel it, you can't really understand if the little changes you're going to make are actually going to work. So yeah, I mean, for me personally, and as an athlete and as a coach, I would be chomping at the bit. I want to see this guy. I want to touch this guy. I want to see if the adjustments that me and my coach thought I needed to make are actually the proper ones, as opposed to like now he's got to wait for 2 more months for the Big Ten. And if those adjustments don't work, holy crap, all of a sudden I only have 10 days to figure something out before I see this guy again.
Absolutely.
So I would want more time to
hey, Matt, how about this thought too? If he loses, so he'll obviously be the 2 at Big Tens, right? If he loses to Sebastian Rivera, he's 0-2. I mean, there's a good chance that Nick Piccinini or Ronnie Bresser are going to have less than 2 losses. And Spencer would have no wins over Sebastian Rivera this season. I guess he's going to see Nick Piccinini, but he has not seen Ronnie Bresser. Does Ronnie Bresser have any loss? Yeah, Ronnie Bresser lost to Nick Piccinini. So Spencer Lee's going to have to wrestle Nick Piccinini in February, because if for some reason he doesn't wrestle that match and Piccinini were to go undefeated, then he could slide all the way down to the 3. There's no way he could slide to the 4, obviously, right?
I don't think so. Although there's a little bit of subjectivity in the seeding. I mean, because
it's all about wins. If Spencer's sitting these matches out and doesn't have great wins, then I mean, maybe he could slide.
I mean, there is a bias. I mean, the seeding committee is supposed to be balanced and made up, from representatives of every conference. But there's a bias against the Big Ten. If they've got a chance to knock a Big Ten guy down a seed or 2, they're going to take that chance, or they're going to vote one way. I mean, you're going to if I'm the Big 12 rep and I've got the opportunity and I can justify it and rationalize it why I would make Nick Piccinini the 2nd seed, I'm going to do it. And based upon his quality wins, based upon his work throughout the season, if I have a window that's slightly open, I'm probably going to try and seed my conference guy as high as he possibly can, and knock another power conference down a peg or 2 if I can.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I don't like the decision for many reasons, which I think we discussed.
Well, I think the overarching thing, Ben, it's bad for wrestling, right? I mean,
I think it's bad for wrestling. I think it's bad for Spencer Lee and multiple things. I think it's bad for the Hawkeyes. I think it's just bad. I don't see a positive. I genuinely don't see a positive here. I don't.
Yeah, and I think we're getting in this era with all these metricses and all this qualitative analysis and different numbers that we factor into. It's like, I think we're starting to get sucked into where all these other sports are getting sucked into. And I think the one thing
what do you mean by that?
Well, when we're talking about a lot of statistics and introducing different planes of thoughts into how we rank teams, how we measure who's tough, who's the best. I think that the thing that we pride ourselves in wrestling is like, hey, go out and settle it. You can talk all you want. You can break down the stats. You can break down conversion rates, pin rates, bonus rates, whatever. Like, go out there and settle it. And, this is, I hadn't even thought of Spencer Lee saying, no, I don't want to do this, because it just,
absolutely. It's ridiculous.
Seems completely counter to what a champion's mentality would be. And I don't think it is. I still tend to think, for whatever reason, Brand's made the call, like, we're going to sit him. And,
Let's move on. We can't talk about Spencer's whole episode. I feel like, Matt, and I might as well say, I feel like I bash Iowa every chance. It's not every chance I get. Here's the deal, Matt. I went home. So, I'm going to tie two things together. Number one, John Smith had this awesome thing where someone was saying after the fix Siriano that's what's wrong with wrestling. And John Smith said, wrestling's never been better. You guys are idiots. Shut up. And it was fantastic. I loved it. And it's like Friday night, I get done with practice. I had Michigan and Ohio State taped from the Big Ten Network. I was watching Minnesota, Wisconsin on my phone on Flow. And then I go home, and I didn't even realize it. But then Iowa, Illinois is on the TV, I put my kid to bed. So I sit down and watch this match. And you know what bothers me so much about Iowa? It's just like they should just accept who they are. And we're not that aggressive. We don't attack that much, and that's how we're going to win. And if they said that, I don't think I'd have any problem with them. But when they pitch this thing that we're so aggressive, we push the pace, and I watched Kaleb Young take not one shot. I watched Jacob Warner take not one shot. Alex Marinelli somehow got a stall out, and the match was, I think it was 8-4. And I think Alex Marinelli took 2 shots. It was like the most bizarre. The other guy wouldn't shoot either. It was such a bizarre match. But it's like, I just get frustrated because it's like, you can't say we're this offensive aggressive. And I don't think Cash Wilkie took a shot until he was losing with 30 seconds left. So stop saying you're this aggressive, push the pace team when you don't shoot. You just don't. And that's all there is to it. And so I think I get really frustrated by that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, just own your system. If your system is to create pressure, wear guys down, force guys into making bad decisions, hey, own that.
But that's not offense. That is not offense.
I'm just saying, to your point, if he were to say that, you would say, okay, that's not necessarily the style of wrestling that I would choose to employ. But if that's what you think, gives you your team and your athletes the best opportunity to win, I don't agree with it, but I can respect it. You're owning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I get that.
Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Can we get on to something else I'm really annoyed about in college wrestling?
Sure.
I actually have this later. It just seems like it fits now. This stalling by the book. It drives me crazy. And there was actually, I watched some of, and this is John Smith, wrestling's been ever. I got to watch Lehigh versus Arizona State. I got to watch so much wrestling this weekend. I loved it. It was fantastic. So Lehigh versus Arizona State was on like the Patriot Network or something like that. And I turned that on, and this ref was awesome, man. I don't know who he was, but he was a badass. And so, like, okay, for example, you know how they count no matter, this one's so stupid. You know how when the top guy gets on the bottom guy's legs, they count no matter what?
Right.
Okay, well, I don't remember which match. I think my 165. Well, top guy, the bottom guy creates a scramble. Top guy's on like a double leg, okay? Bottom guy gets chest wrapped, so he's holding the top guy on his leg so the top guy can't do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the bottom guy just like sticks his hands out like a Superman, like, hey, I'm not holding on to this guy. Now, most refs will still call stalling, as insane as that is. You know what this ref did?
What?
He stalemated it. It was perfect. It was perfect. He stalemated it. It's like, hey, the bottom guy's just trying to get this stalling call. He's not actually trying to move. The top guy can't move or hold the legs because then I have to call him for stalling. I'm going to call this for a stalemate, like it should be called. And he did that like 3 or 4 times. But you know what else I'm seeing, like this by the book stalling? So when the bottom guy gets to his feet and the top guy, we talked about this with the Amin and Facundo situation.
Yep.
But I think it's even worse, Matt. I saw this, and I don't think I talked about this because you were in China. Tristan Moran was wrestling Northwestern, maybe, okay? And he stands up, and the guy's got his leg like hooked in kind of like a backpack, you know? And so he can't return the guy. So he gets warned for stalling once. So then he like jumps on the guy's back to try to get a better position. And literally the guy has both of his legs hooked, like a piggyback ride. Think about a piggyback ride, Matt.
Okay.
Okay. And Tristan Moran sticks his hands up in the air like it's a stick up. And he's like, I'm not holding on to this person. He's holding on to me. And the ref called him for stalling again.
Unreal.
It was like, this is insane. And so like, okay, by the book, the top guy's not returning the bottom guy. But when you look at what's happening there, it's insanity. You can't call that for stalling. And I saw it 3 or 4 times this weekend. The Lehigh ref was the one that called it awesome. I don't know who that was. He did a fantastic job. But man, the stalling by the book it's driving me crazy because you can't make perfect rules. And so there's a lot of flaws in these. And when refs try to call the rules as they're written, sometimes it's just completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
I know. And I think that the ref, and I'd love to look up to see who ref the Lehigh Arizona State match. But obviously he's got an understanding of wrestling. And,
yeah,
you know, I think a lot of these officials, you know, I would say by and large, a lot of the officials do have, to some extent, a wrestling background.
Yeah.
Now, to what level, I'm not sure. But I think the higher up you go, you lose that high-end intuitiveness. If you've never competed on this level, if you've never coached at this level, you don't have that high-level intuitiveness to understand what's really going on in a match. And therefore, you're looking for a black and white call. Like you're looking for situations of, okay, this is what the rule book says, by law, whatever. And then you said, okay, this is the, you know, XYZ, I make this call. And a lot of that time, that's the frustrating things for fans and for coaches and for wrestlers. Like,
I think
you don't really know what's going on.
I wish there was a larger separation between referee and coach in wrestling. Somehow. I don't know how you do it, but I just feel like, I don't want to say the refs are intimidated, but they have a cordial relationship with the coaches. You know, I mean, they see them all the time, right? Wrestling's so intimate. We're in such a small space, whether it's a tournament or a dual meet, that, you know, they know which coaches are going to be freaking a-holes if they make a bad call or don't call it the way it's supposed to be called. And I want to say some refs are swayed by that. Not all of them, but some of them are. And I wish that didn't happen as well. So
see, for me, I always wanted, my frustration with the rules were a lot of times I just wanted clarification on why a ref called something a certain way. And if I had a question about that, I went to the head table. He would tell me, but my frustration, anytime you go to the head table, automatically it's a team warning. You get warned.
Yes.
And I wish there could be, I'll actually take the other side. I wish there could be more dialogue, because a lot of times, like, it's like, hey, I'm not questioning the call you're making. I just want an understanding of why you're calling it a certain way.
What about this, Matt? I'm going to pitch a revolutionary idea,
okay.
I think. What if it had to be like half an hour after a dual meet, a referee and a coach could sit down? And that's like, you know what I'm saying? Because when the tensions are high, when the match is going, I feel like you're not always using your rational brain. You're using your emotional brain.
Right.
And I think that's kind of, that can be an issue. And so if you took that half an hour to cool off after a match, and maybe the mat tape was there and you wrote, hey, 141, third period, 184, second period. And you got to say, well, what did you see here? I don't agree with this, you know? Maybe that would create a better, I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe it would create a better scenario.
You know what? And there is dialogue, but you know what? There is, you know, a head of the officials association. There is a head of the rules committee, and they're always getting bombarded with questions and clarifications week in and week out. You know, my problem is most of the time coaches are bitching about they got screwed on this call, and why is this rule designed this way? And so it's not really to better the sport. They just feel like they got slighted in this instance. And so I don't think that really is conducive to really constructive dialogue.
Sure.
I like that idea. I mean, if you could have a calm, rational conversation, and I don't know how many calm, rational wrestling coaches there are, even 4 or 5 hours after the match.
Really, you don't think so? I think they
could
down.
be. Yeah, they could be, but
maybe not some of them. But I think a decent amount would calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I do wish though. I mean, there always seems to by its nature, the coach, referee, athlete, referee, there seems to be some form of contentiousness there.
Yeah.
Just because everybody thinks the ref's out to get him, and that's not what his job is. But yeah, I wish there could be more meaningful dialogue instead of like, in the heat of the moment, don't get me wrong, it's accusations, right? When you're yelling something out, he's stalling. I mean, you're accusing the ref of saying you don't know what you're doing. And therefore, he's going to get defensive. As much as he says he's trying to be impartial, he's going to get defensive because you're attacking his credibility. You're attacking his motivation, and I get that.
Yeah, that was very well said. I totally agree. Yeah, and especially like I mentioned this when it was the Princeton-Wisconsin match. Like, man, you know, I don't think I realized it when I was in college coaching, but now being a little farther out, being a little more mature and older, like I can't believe how much some of these coaches whine. I was saying I couldn't believe how refreshing Cale Sanderson is. He just sits there and doesn't say nothing. Like, that's so refreshing, you know?
Yeah.
I loved it. So yeah, I'm sick of the refs calling it by the book. I hope I hope there can be some leniency when it makes sense, because if we understand wrestling, there's some of these things that just don't make sense. Just call a stalemate, get on with it, and let's go.
But kudos to the Lehigh ref. We need to look that up. And we pile on these guys so many times, and whenever they do something right, they never get called out and said, "Hey, good job." So I'm going to look that up and see who that official was, and let's give him a shout out the next time.
I didn't mind you know what? The Illinois-Iowa ref, I didn't mind the job he did. But like his job was so hard, Matt.
Oh, man.
His job was so hard because with the Marinelli and Stoll match, Marinelli and Stoll refused to do any type of real offense. All they did was just push straight backwards, you know? And so it's like by the rule book, every time the guys go out of bounds, you're supposed to call stalling. But then at the same time, it's like, well, the other guy's not doing anything either.
Which I think they did.
So it's like
now I was a little I was a little jet lagged and I didn't catch all of it. But did Marinelli get called for pushing a guy out?
No, never.
He never did.
The other guy got stalled out. So the other guy was Joey Gunther, who actually wrestled at Iowa last year, which maybe explains his proclivity not to shoot. But the Stoll, like in the Stoll match, that was just like a V8 versus a V4. Like the other dude, the Deuce. He was going backwards. There was nothing he was going to do about it.
Yeah.
Like, he just, you know, and I think the ref called him maybe twice in the period, but like, Stoll he didn't try a throw. He didn't try a move. He didn't try a snap down. He just pushed. And it was like, Deuce wasn't stopping him. And so I was actually curious to see what happened. So Deuce, I believe either Deuce chose down or Stoll chose top, I forget, and Stoll got the pin. But if that went more periods, like, I don't know what that ref was going to do, because it was like, Deuce just couldn't do nothing. He was going backwards. Yeah. That's all there was to it.
And then, you know, I was going to go and segue into another reffing topic. And
which one?
Calling heavyweights differently, but I don't think I really want to get into that.
Well, so if you want to continue on this by the book thing, Matt, the one ref that really bugged me was and I'll give you one on both sides to prove that I'm not biased whatsoever. But in that Northwestern Wisconsin match I referenced with the Tristan Moran call by the book, at 197, Bo Bresky got broken down, and the guy had an inside wrist with 1 minute and 45 seconds left, and the guy didn't move off parallel. He didn't change his tie-up. He sat with a wrist, driving the shoulder, and knee up the butt, and just stuck there. The ref let him sit there for 1 minute 45, Matt. It was insane. It was crazy. It was almost like the ref was saying, if he's not doing this, this, or this, he ain't stalling. You know, like grabbing a leg, side headlock. And then at heavyweight, same thing happened. Trent Hilger got a breakdown on Conan Jennings with about 1 minute and 45 left, and he had double boots in, Matt. Double boots at heavyweight.
and the ref let him sit there for 1:45.
And that comes back to,
unbelievable.
again, a
I
level of
never-
understanding of wrestling that they don't have. I'm like, there's nothing you can do. I mean,
he was stuck. There was nothing. There was nothing he could do.
You could have two 25-pounders, and if the top guy's got double boots in, the bottom guy ain't going anywhere, let alone two 300-pounders. Forget about it.
Yeah. And he called the bottom guy for stalling, Matt, twice.
Jeez.
It was brutal. Like,
wow.
Jennings wasn't going anywhere. He just wasn't, he was stuck. And so, yeah, that was, man. So that was kind of another misapplication. Okay, last misapplication of the rules I'm going to complain about, and then we can move on and talk about real wrestling. The last one that bugs me, this is by the book thing again. The side headlock. Matt, will you explain to these people, these referees, that the side headlock, okay? Side headlock is a very specific thing. So let me break this down. An assassin is not a side headlock. What I call the defecator, which is the move that Alex Marinelli does, not a side headlock. The move Trent Hilger does to get turned, to get back points, also not a side headlock. So these refs are thinking that anything that goes around the arm and the head is a side headlock. And that's just not true. And there's good pinning combinations where you use the arm and the head that are being taken away from people because they can't execute them in 5 seconds or less because the refs are calling them for stalling. That one is the last one that's really bugging me.
Well, I think the thing there is, to your point, with the side headlock and the different variations and the different pinning and turning combinations, I wish that they would understand there's a difference between attacking the side headlock and just looking to stall.
Which no one tries to do anymore.
No one does it. But if he shows the effort, like with Marinelli, when he goes to attack the head like that, he's attacking for a pinning combination.
That's a pinning combination.
And they disregard that. They don't acknowledge that. They don't acknowledge that he's actually trying to go for a pin. They just think, I get to 5 and I'm going to hit you for stalling. And it's
because you can't turn that move over in 5 seconds. It takes you got to wear the guy out a little bit. Yeah, it takes more. And same with the assassin. I mean, every once in a while you get it quick, but most times it takes a while. The move that Trent Hilger does, same thing.
I mean, if your opponent is worth his salt, he's going to fight it and he's going to resist it. If he's not that good, he's going to roll over and get pinned. And that's the only time you're going to get a quick pin off attacking the side headlock or attacking the head.
Yes, because it's not stalling. So. Referees, some of you guys doing great jobs, but we need to stop doing it by the book. By the book, side headlock is not anything that encompasses the head and the arm. Man, when people get to their feet, the bottom guy is stalling sometimes. Stalemate it, do something else. Okay, let's get on to. I want to hear. We got 12 minutes left, Matt. I want to hear your Penn State theory. They've been in a slump. They haven't been themselves for the last 3 weeks. And you said you have a theory, and I am so excited.
Well,
to hear
I don't know if it's this deep, thought-out theory, but I think it's something. I think what Penn State is experiencing is something new in the sense, like, there hasn't been many times during their run in the last 8-9 years where they've been prohibitive favorites, right? I think this is.
You mean like they were running away with it?
I think they ran away with it. What, one time?
I think we talked about this. I think it was only once.
Yeah, one time. But outside of that, I mean, they've had to fight to the last session of the NCAA tournament to win the NCAA title. This is kind of the first time that I can remember in quite some time where everybody's clearly saying they're the class of the NCAA field, that it's their tournament to lose, that they're the.
I mean,
Even with some upsets, people are still saying, yeah, they could lose a couple of their top guys and they could still win this thing. So my thought is maybe this is the first time that they've had to deal with some, not complacency, but they're like, who's out there? Who is the team that's going to challenge us? It's just
nobody. We've said that. Nobody.
And so I think that's a different feeling. You've been there, right? Where it's like no one's gonna touch you, and that's when you understand.
I did well with that though. I didn't lose.
But it's a different mentality, right? When you know you're the class of the field and know you're hands down the man, You have to approach that with a slightly different mentality than the hunter or the competitor or a guy's neck and neck with you.
I don't think so. I mean, I disagree, and I think that's and was okay. So obviously, so now you're not talking about one person; you're talking about 10 people, right?
Right.
And so I think when you're talking about 10 people, I think why I had so much success, and if you say, some of these guys, right? David Taylor, Ed Ruth, Zane Rutherford, Jason Wolf, Bo Nickel. One of the reasons that they have so much success, even when they're the favorite by so far, is they just go out and kick butt no matter what. They just go out and they're aggressive. They bring the heat. They don't wrestle like there's a target on their back. They don't slack off because they think they're so much better than anybody else. They just go out there and they handle business. And that's one of the things I would say that Penn State guys have done better than almost anyone I can remember, right? As a group. But now when you go into your, Mark Hall's had some close matches. Vincenzo Chose's had a lot of close matches. I think RBY is getting out there and obviously he got hurt doing a backflip, which I think is a far inferior move to just a standing leg pass. Kind of trying to showboat. So I think maybe it's this next generation that hasn't really earned their salt yet, that doesn't understand what and how Taylor and Ruth and Rutherford, how they did it, So I think it can be different, but it can also be, you're best when you're the same. When I wasn't the favorite, when I was a freshman and sophomore, I wanted to go out and crush everyone. When I was a senior and junior and I was a favorite, I wanted to go crush everyone. It was the same thing for me.
And I think that has been a great characteristic of the Penn State teams. Like, they love to compete against each other. They compete against their own abilities, but also they're measuring themselves, and that's been one of their great characteristics, and one of their big separating points as a team with their bonus points is they're competing against the guy above them, the guy below them. Like, oh, you went out and tech this guy? Well, I'm going to go and pin you.
Yes.
You pinned this guy in 2 minutes? I'm going to pin this guy in 1 minute. And so they cultivated this very healthy competition amongst the group. I'm just saying, there's a different personality to every team. And the personalities that have carried these Penn State teams in the past, the dynamic might be slightly altered. And I don't know. I'm just trying to come up.
It feels like it. So, Matt, so Piles was talking about it. Penn State they've had down performances in past years. Obviously, they haven't won the Big Ten championship in two of the last three that they've won NCAA titles. They have not won a Big Ten. And they've had a few down performances. Christian Piles mentioned, I remember the Michigan performance was kind of a down performance 2 years ago. So the 17-18 season. Remember, Nolf had a close one with Pantaleo. Nickel had a really close one with Abinator. I think Amin and Mark Hall was really close. But for what it's worth now, I feel like
what we haven't seen, we've seen performances where they haven't looked their best. But now it's been 3 weeks where
that's what I was going to say.
There's been a handful of weeks like they've been able to self-correct. If they've ever had a flat dual meet performance, that's been a singular weekend.
Yes.
And maybe, obviously, we're spoiled. Obviously, they're victims of their own expectations, the victims of their own success, 100%. That we look at this and it's like, hey, we're not used to seeing this. And so we've seen it once, maybe twice, but seeing it back to back to back weeks, and it's not like they're
I don't feel like it's happening.
Yeah. And so I think it's right for us to maybe have a conversation or maybe theorize of what it could possibly be. And so my thought was maybe they're just, for the first time, they're like, okay, who's out there? I guess it's just us. And if we go out and take care of our business, we're going to win a national title. And
let me pitch this to you, Matt. And I'm not so sure I'm sold on this. Well, I made a terrible call on Roman Bravo Young. I said he was going to be in the NCAA finals this year, and I think that's kind of far off. But are we saying, is this actually a team race, Matt? Because, okay, I thought about this the other night. 25, Penn State is not getting 8 points. Okay, right now, it doesn't look like Roman Bravo Young's going to score too many points. He's still down at rank number 14. He just suffered an injury. Who knows how serious it is? But even if he takes 2 to 3 weeks, which is probably on the fast end for a knee injury, if he takes 2 or 3 weeks to come back, I mean, he's just healing up for the Big Tens.
And let's be clear here. The Jason Nolfs of the world are the exception to the rule. A guy that can wrestle at 75, 80, 90% with a significant injury, there's very few guys that can totally just shrug that off and say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Cut my leg off, I'm still going to beat you. Most guys, with a lot of high-level guys, number one, they've never been hurt before. So when they experience a significant injury, a lot of guys, you don't know how they're going to react. So I think that's the concern, not that Robin Bravo Young got hurt. How is he healed?
He definitely got hurt. He didn't wrestle Sunday.
So how's he going to react? When he does come back, how's he going to react? Because, look at the whole, and we'll never know about the whole Suriano thing, but there's been a number of guys, when they get dinged, it's like, taking the S off their chest. And all of a sudden they don't know how to wrestle not being perfect. And so that could be a big consideration. Not that if he's healthy enough, because I think the Penn State training staff will definitely get him healthy enough to wrestle. Psychologically, will he be able to compete?
But also, if he's hurt right now, he's not training, he's not in peak shape. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. And when you look at 33, it's stacked all the way top to bottom.
Yep.
And so then, so let's keep going. 41, Nick Lee. Man, I don't think he's guaranteed big points. He lost to Tristan Moran, who, is ranked somewhere between 12 and 16. He had a really close match with Chad Red, who's all the way ranked down at 19. I mean, I genuinely don't feel like you can guarantee that Nick Lee is going to score big points. 49, man.
I would say Lee's a lock to place, but he's not a lock.
I don't think he is. I'd say lock to be, say, top 12.
I think he's a lock to place. I don't see him. He's not. I don't think he's going to ever be in our discussion. Is this guy going to be in the finals?
Wait. Matt, let me ask you this. You got Dom Demas at 11. You got Cade Brock at 13. You got Max Murin at 15. You got Tristan Moran at 16, who he just lost to. You're telling me if Nick Lee, you tell me he's guaranteed to beat all of those guys? That's not a guarantee. To me, that's not a guarantee.
No, I think he is. I think he's a lock.
I don't think so. I think there's a good chance.
I think 5 to 8, he's in great position. Anything above 5, I think Penn State would say, hey, we got a great weekend out of Nick Lee at the NCAA tournament. I definitely think he's a lock to place. Anything inside the top 4, I think he's going to wrestle an exceptional tournament.
So I don't think so. I don't see him as a lock to place. I'd say it's likely that he places, but I don't see his lock. 49, I don't think they're getting any points at 49. That's fair, correct?
Really? Yeah,
no, Berge has not looked good. They wrestled for clearance, so obviously Berge's having weight issues or something. I don't think he's going to place.
I think with Berge, and I think it's with Verclaren too, is like they don't fit the Penn State mold. They aren't guys that, and it's got to drive the coaching staff crazy. And I don't want to talk for them and jump in their shoes, but Berge and Verclaren, they don't score points, and that's atypical of a Penn State team, and that's got to really frustrate the coaching staff. When they've traded him out or swapped guys, I think they're trying to stimulate these guys to wrestle to the level that they believe. But yeah, I don't think they're going to get a lot out of 49, not based upon what we've seen so far.
Okay, so they're not getting a lot there. Okay, we'll both agree that 57 guaranteed lock to win. 65, I mean, he's your favorite. There's no doubt about that. But he didn't get a takedown against Isaiah White, and so I'd say he's your favorite. But is he a guarantee to win? Nah, not really.
I meant to text you this. I almost texted you over in China when I was seeing some of the results. I'm like, eventually, that type of wrestling the one takedown game, wrestling the 3-2, 6-4
and Marsteller too was
right?
the one takedown game. Yeah.
Eventually, as great as his defense is, and his baseline defense is as good as I've ever seen from a guy.
Yes.
Eventually, someone's going to get to his baseline D. at a time that's really going to put his back really against the wall. I'm not going to say it's luck, because you can't win 2 NCAA titles and have the performances that he's had for the previous 2 years and say there's an element of luck to it. I don't believe that.
No, he's awesome, but it's playing with fire.
Yeah, how long do you want to play that game before you're the one that gets burnt, right? He's burned a lot of guys by coming up with clutch takedowns in key situations. When is going to be the time that it actually burns him?
Yeah, I agree. And so the other thing there, he's not scoring huge bonus, okay? Mark Hall, same thing. I think you saying he's a finalist for sure, possible champ. Also, hasn't been scoring a huge amount of bonus lately. 84, he's been out, right? He hasn't been wrestling. And he's
bonus points. If he's healthy, he's bonus points.
But we haven't seen him against any of the top guys. I mean, I'm thinking like, man, his ceiling, his ceiling is second. That's his ceiling to me. But we haven't seen him against any of these guys, so it's hard to say exactly where he stacks up. He hasn't wrestled any of the top guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's challenging. Fair. Nickel, obviously, I wouldn't be shocked if he pins his way through the tournament, but he had an 8-6 with the number 11 guy, so maybe he does the elbows. And then heavyweight, good, not great. He lost to Derek White, didn't get a takedown there. So I think you're saying, a 3-5 finish from him would probably be pretty good. So I mean, to me, if you're not getting, if Nick Lee loses out, if they're not getting any points in the first 4 weight classes, and I don't think you can guarantee big points from 184. I think it's possible, but not a guarantee. Can you win the NCAA tournament with 5 weights?
I think this year.
Yes,
I think this year
they do.
I think this year you can.
Okay, I think that's fair. I mean,
and it's not like there's any team. That's the thing. It's almost like we are artificially creating a conversation to keep people on the hook and engage.
I love the team race.
I do. I love it. I want it to be great, but there hasn't been any other team. While Penn State, I wouldn't even say they've faltered. They just haven't lived up or passed the eye test that we've been spoiled by them.
These next 2 weekends.
But nobody else has stepped up to say, "Oh wow, look at this! Look at Okie State! Look at Ohio State! Look at Iowa! Look at Minnesota." There's not any of those other teams that are really stepping up to create a conversation right now.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have the next 2 weekends. They got Michigan, and they got Ohio State, and that is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm coming down to the Ohio State match. So we're gonna be down there. We're gonna check it out. It's gonna be a blast. I think we're gonna try to do a live podcast.
We're looking to set that up. Hopefully, we can have some details this week. I know that's coming up. I think that's gonna be if we can pull that off, I think it could be a pretty cool opportunity for the Penn State and the Ohio State fans, hyping up the match before the dual meet.
Nice. So, okay, Matt, tomorrow, next time when we come back, man, we have Ohio State and Michigan to talk about, which was an awesome dual meet. And then I want to talk about the 133-pound weight class. It's been all over the place. So let's pick up there next time. That was a lot of fun. You got anything, last words for the people? You want to say goodbye in Chinese or something?
I'm not that well versed. You call me out.
How is goodbye? Ni hao.
Ni hao.
Ni hao. That's hello. What's goodbye?
I'm not
sure. I don't even
remember.
remember.
I'm not sure. Okay. So
either way, that's us
good to be back
for today. All right. I will talk to you soon, Matt. Have a great day.
All right. We'll see you, Ben.